Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Sell More Book Show, episode 597. I'm Bryan Cohen from Best Page Forward, joined by dark romance author Angel Lawson. Angel, I love having you here. We've been connected for a number of years through Best Page Forward-y kind of stuff, and I'm excited. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good today.
Good.
It's sunny and fall-ish outside in Georgia. Just you never know.
Yep.
I'll take it.
Yep. Those comfortable times in the South. You have to soak in the comfortable weather times in the South.
Yes.
Yeah.
In
Absolutely.
the shade, it's perfect.
Yes. Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. So man, I always ask people like, who should I have on the show? And you were recommended. People like the way you market your stuff, and they say
Thank
that
you.
you've had a big burst these last couple of years of success, and I think that a lot of that comes down to sticking it out and continuing to push, because you've been writing for many years.
Yes.
But some of it comes to like these aha moments, like, oh, correct, that's what people have been trying to tell me for 5-10 years. Do you feel
absolutely
like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you feel like there was one aha moment that was like, I'm sure there's many, but like, was there one that stands out to you as like, oh, now I know what to do?
My first aha moment was on January 1st, 2017. A friend, I wasn't really that much on my author Facebook page, but somebody sent me a message that I had collaborated with on something, and she said, I think you would really like this group. And it was the 20 books to 50K book, which was very early. I think there were like 400.
Oh yeah, 2017, that was the beginning. That was the very beginning.
Yes, it was like 400 members maybe, and suddenly people were speaking a language that I understood. After many years of not being able to crack the code.
Right.
And I think it was me. I really think it was just hearing it in a language that I understood a little bit better. It was very data driven. It was, people back then would come in and say, this is exactly what I did. And I would say, oh, this makes sense. Whereas prior to that, I felt like some of the groups I was participating in, which this is early, there weren't a lot of author groups. And I just felt like I just couldn't quite decipher what they were saying. But the information in the group was correlating also with some of my actions that I had started. I had started sort of, back then it was like the 90-day release.
Yep.
Cliff, and just things like that. And so the information and my actions were starting to merge together. And that's when I started seeing more success, because I was able to start implementing some of these ideas that I started seeing progress from, instead of just going on a wing and a prayer.
And I think that it's more rare, like what you did then and what I've seen other authors do. It's more rare than you'd think. I think a lot of people post in a Facebook group because they want some kind of echo chamber. They want to hear that what they're doing is good, because they want that validation. But you did something different in that you saw what other people were doing. You saw what people were sharing. You saw them talking about stuff. And then you said, okay, well, I'll try that thing that they say, or I will test this thing out that they say, rather than saying, well, that isn't my preconceived notion of this thing, so I'm not going to do it.
Right. And it still took a while. It still took me a while. I think I'm just like a little bit of a slow processor when it comes to some of this. I think it's sort of merging that creative and the business together. It's like two different parts of your brain, and once they click, it can go really great places. But if you're resistant to one or the other, I think that's where you can have a harder time making
Right.
progress.
Right. I mean, resistance in general, whether it's resistance to change, resistance to people having a different opinion than you,
Yes.
it's hard when you're very pushing against things to make progress. You've gotta have a little malleability.
Yeah, I really think so. And I definitely think I was having some resistance early on, and probably not even out of my own ego as much as just misinformation and just not really
Right.
understanding what I was just trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who say they know the thing, and it's hard to know, well, which of the people actually know the thing.
I never feel like, I talk about this a lot with some other authors, that I never feel like I know everything. And when anyone
Sure.
says this is the way, I'm like, are you sure?
Are you sure? Do you have
Have
data to back this up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have the
Yeah.
force behind you? I don't know. I
Exactly.
don't know.
Exactly.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good conversation to have, because I don't think look, I teach things, I coach, I share things. I never say I know all the answers. That's
Right.
why I keep having amazing people like you on the show, because I want to learn more. How am I going to teach people if I don't learn more?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have to just be open-minded. And I think that's the other thing. Like right now, there's some volatility in the market
Sure.
with the books. And if you kind of stay calm um and ask questions and
Yes.
feel it out, you can probably learn, like, oh, some of us have been here before. Like this is,
Yeah, the
it's
patterns
not
repeat
great.
themselves. The
It's
patterns
not
repeat
great,
themselves.
but
Yeah.
it is a kind of predictable pattern, and you can even kind of start to anticipate them a little bit ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, I'm excited. We've got a lot to cover. I did want to just make sure everybody knows that you can go check out Angel's many, many books on Amazon and other wonderful places. So definitely go check those out. Um, my coaching group and the coaching groups that we offer at Best Page Forward are open for application. So if you want to go check that out at the sellmorebookshow.com website, in the show notes, you can check that out. We have our Groundbreakers group. There's no requirements. You can get 6 months of coaching from our expert team. And then the Pathfinders group is for authors earning over $2,500 a month. We've got lots of great full-timers in there that are all learning and sharing and growing together. So very, very excited to have more people in those groups. Let's go into the previous week's question. I like this question a lot. I'm interested in your thoughts on this too, Angel. So, what would your dream author business vacation look like? Would you do nothing or keep working during the fun? Karen Heenan said, I would go to Paris and walk and eat and drink and exhaust myself with beauty, and then I would write when I felt like it. I love that, Karen. Katie Sharonford said, I would travel to Milan to retrace the steps of my characters in the Sherlock Holmes and Irene Adler mysteries. Very cool. And then Eric Stevens says, winter getaway in the Rockies, mixing both writing and relaxing in generous quantities. Very nice answers there, you guys. Angel, would you work or would you have no work during your ideal vacation?
I feel like I've gotten a little bit better about not working. I used to feel like I had to like keep up that momentum all the time. And I'm never ever going to say never, but I find it hard to really get into writing when I'm traveling. I'm just out of my routine. But I usually will end up doing some other stuff, admin, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to unplug fully, but
yeah.
but that's good that you're getting better at it. Progress.
Yes.
Progress
Yes.
is good.
Takes a minute.
Hooray. Yeah. Awesome. And remember, folks, you can always answer the question of the week, sellmorebookshow.com or at the Sell More Book Show After Party Facebook group. I'm a little under the weather, so I'm popping a little cough drop before I start reading the top story of the week. Legit pay-to-play publishing As the traditional publishing model seems to be becoming less effective, new publishing models are springing up designed to bridge the gap between self-publishing and the big five. Quote, entrepreneurs, many formerly with traditional publishers, are finding new ways to connect authors and readers, says Jim Milliant and Ed Nowatka, writing about hybrid publishers for Publishers Weekly. In theory, a hybrid publisher is one who charges the author to publish while providing expertise, editorial standards, and distribution. Quote, the model of paying to publish isn't new, says Jane Friedman in The Bottom Line. It goes back to the 1800s. It's just that hybrids are presumably doing more than their forebears to make a book successful, end quote. However, because these terms aren't standardized, not all of them are created equal. Jane says it doesn't help that many companies call themselves hybrid, but do little more than act as a self-publishing service. End quote. Authors Equity, a hybrid founded by 3 former Big Five execs and Atomic Habits author James Clear, is said to be built on what they're calling a profit-sharing model with authors guaranteed 60% or more of a book's profits. Quote, today author brands are what is important, says Clear, so authors should be getting the majority of the profits, end quote. Even with reputable hybrid publishers, services vary, so it's important to know what you'd be getting into before you approach them. Sourcebooks, another hybrid, has had success taking on the print books of successful self-published authors, while Zando's Slow Burn imprint takes on independently published romance authors. As always, be careful what you sign. Not all publishers make it long-term, so protect your reversion rights. Quote, the most recent high-profile startup to flame out was TikTok's Eighth Note Press, says Milliot and Nowaka. The promising publisher planned to use what it learned from Book Talk to publish bestsellers, only to shut down after releasing a handful of books. I hadn't actually known, Angel, that Eighth Note Press was already done. I knew that it happened. I knew that it was offering people questionable contracts. I didn't know that it had gone away. Not that it surprises me all that much.
I didn't know they actually published anything. I kind of heard about it when it announced, and then I did hear that it was no longer happening, but I didn't even know that anything had come of
published. Yeah, I mean, there are scammy peoples out there who do the hybrid publishing thing and charge maybe a lot more than what is fair. But there are some legitimate actors in this. I mean, what is your thought on this growing model?
So I feel like isn't the one with James Clear, Authors Equity, that's also with Tim Ferriss, correct?
It may be. Yeah, I don't have all the info, but yeah.
When that came out, I listened to a podcast, maybe on Tim Ferriss, and he was talking about it, and it felt like that was for already traditionally published authors as a way for them, because they, I think, were getting stymied with the traditional publishing and were not able to release as much as they wanted to. So I kind of felt like that was a traditional publishing coming up with the solution for themselves, which is not a bad idea.
Right, but isn't maybe, and you're right, I confirmed that Tim Ferriss is one of the investors in that, but it's almost like a new traditional publishing imprint rather than even a hybrid model.
Yeah, I think so, because I think it was just, it was interesting, but it seemed like it was like a niche, kind of like for themselves. Like they were creating something for themselves.
We're making this great thing, and if you qualify, okay.
Yeah, like how can I make 60% on my own book instead of giving it to the publisher? Not a bad idea, but not actually really accessible to most people.
Right.
I think, here's my thing about the hybrid stuff.
Yes.
If you think that you as an author can, in today's day and age, can avoid learning this business, you are making a mistake.
Right.
If that's the reason because I get it, like, especially early on, you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Will somebody just do this for me?
Yep.
But no one is going to do this for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you get a deal with. And we've seen people, I mean, you've probably seen people, I've seen people lately who have gotten traditional deals, like good deals. Like they've gone from fully indie to getting an offer And all of a sudden they're like, these people are not doing anything. I've got to step in and start doing it.
Right.
Because that's the one thing we learned. We learn how to sell the books. We learn how to market everything. We learn how to build our own assets, like our newsletters, our social media followings. You just can't avoid that. So I think my question would be, what are you looking to get out of this relationship? And if it's a shortcut, I don't think it's ever going to be successful.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think people want to think less. They want to have less work and less thinking, but often you have to give up way too much in trade for that, and you still don't get good results at the end.
Yeah.
So thinking about this one, look, for going to these hot potatoes of wisdom questions, like what would you say is a red flag or some red flags for people to look for if they are, considering this hybrid publishing direction?
I think obviously the pay to play. I mean, obviously you're going to give them some royalties, but I think it's the money up front is a red flag. If they're buying in, they need to buy in and give you the resources you need. I don't know. I think you have to figure out what the resources are. I'm not going to lie. I kind of stopped looking into the hybrid stuff a long time ago because they all seemed scammy. Yes. And I don't know if I have heard any examples of that changing. If people have an example, I would love to hear about it.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's a good red flag to look out for. You have a question here for me.
I do. How can authors decide whether traditional, hybrid, or self-publishing is the best choice for them?
I think that a lot of authors who haven't learned this whole thing yet think they have a choice. And more often than not, the choice is waiting and submitting versus putting it out into the world.
Right.
And hybrid feels like a middle ground, but it's very rare that if you're putting out $5,000, $10,000 as some of these costs, that you're going to make that back.
Yeah, no, I don't see it happening.
Especially when you just have less control over the product. And so it's like, it's never really a choice. It's a matter of, it's not choosing the model. It's a matter of, do you want to try traditional publishing at some point? You probably want to self-publish first to learn it and grow and find your voice, and eventually maybe get to the point where you have a big enough following that traditional publishing is even an option, because it feels like a choice. It's not really a choice.
Well, and that's one of those fascinating things that's changed so much, because when I started writing and publishing, it was very frowned upon to self-publish. It was like, you are never going to get a traditional deal.
Yeah.
If you have self-published, and if you are going to self-publish, you should do it under a pen name and never acknowledge this to the world. It was so never acknowledged. And self-publishing is such a force that it has completely turned that on its head. So so really, out of those three options, traditional, hybrid, or self-publishing, who really has the power?
Right. Exactly.
Right now.
If you can move your own ship, if you can steer your own ship as you can in self-publishing, you get to choose where you go.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Good points. Good points. We are getting into the lightning round now. Everybody's favorite part. I have no idea. Nobody's ever told me if they like it or don't like it. But Angel, it's your turn to create a thundery, lightning-y sound.
Okay, I've been waiting for this day.
I know.
All right. Thunder to me is just
ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. I feel like it went higher than a lot of people's, which I think is good. So you write darker themed books, Angel. What are
Yeah.
your biggest marketing challenges with those darker books?
So this is like kind of a twofold. The challenges are it's going to be difficult to do AMS
Yep.
ads.
Yep.
They flag everything for whatever reason.
Yep.
And the trade-off to I guess like branding on a low, like to meet the AMS standards, you're going to have to water down your possibly your darker branding, like your titles, your keywords, your cover. And so you have to make that's a decision you have to make. And my perspective, it hasn't been worth it to water down the branding to get the AMS ads. Facebook seems a little more reasonable. I don't do my own Facebook ads. I actually pay a company to do them because that is not my skill set. But nothing seems to really be a problem. Sometimes we just have to kind of tinker with some words, you know.
Right.
In dark romance, the readers seem to understand what they're looking for, and you're smarter to give them what they're looking for than to withhold it, I think.
Right.
Obviously there's a line, but they want those content warnings, and they want I think they're a really prime example of like you've got what 10 seconds to catch their attention or whatever it is. They know what they're looking for. So your challenge is figuring out what they're looking for and getting it to them as fast as possible, because they have a lot of options. And they do have a lot of options. That's another challenge. Is just visibility is probably the biggest challenge, and somewhere falling in the line of my product is unique, but it's also exactly what you're looking for from the last book you read.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That makes total sense. You've got a question here for me.
Okay. What can you do to market your books if they're too dark to advertise?
So I think, you absolutely nailed several of these points. You can usually market almost anything on Facebook. And so you can run Facebook ads. You can potentially run TikTok ads, BookBub ads. So it's rare that anything's too dark to be advertised at all. If you can't advertise on Amazon, you have the choice of maybe having one book in that series, or a prequel of that series, or a spinoff of that series with content that would be accepted, that could be advertised. Then that could lead into the darker stuff. But like you said, there is a potential sacrifice there. I think what most authors are using to advertise, to promote their dark books, is social media. And if you have not developed a social media following, and you plan to write dark books going forward, I would start putting time and resources into developing a social media following.
Yeah, their readers are very active in dark romance on social media, probably more than any other genre. And if that's Facebook groups, if it's like an author group, like I have an author group and they're active in there, but then they're active in their reader groups, and then they're active all over Book Talk, obviously, which that's just a whole other can of ever evolving worms. So I don't even know what to say. Works or doesn't work on TikTok. Instagram, they're out there. Reddit, I think there's probably niche groups on Reddit. So yeah, I do, the number one thing I do think about dark romance, and this probably goes to other areas too, but I just know this one for sure, is they're definitely looking for a community. And anywhere you can decide to build a community is a smart path.
Right. That totally makes sense. Next question coming to you. What do you think was the most important thing you learned with your writing craft that helped you to eventually have your breakout success?
So I think it was really kind of understanding and embracing tropes. Obvious, like that's
Right.
one that I struggled with.
Yeah.
Of kind of learning the difference between a cliche and a trope and whatever. And then once you pick those tropes or universal fantasies or genre expectations, is leaning into them as hard as possible.
Yep.
Do not pull your punches. And the reader has picked up a book because they do have an expectation, and you've got to lean into that as much as you can for what you have decided to write. And it
Right.
doesn't matter what you've decided to write, but going hard, leaning in is what I've really learned.
I like that. I haven't heard people describe it in that way, but I like that idea. Just like you're not
Yeah.
pulling away from those expectations, leaning
No.
in. You want to
You're
make sure
leaning
they're
in
very clear.
really, really clear. Yes.
Yeah.
Like if you're, say, like in dark romance, I think something that elevated the first series of mine with my co-author that went so popular is that we really leaned in. And I do think that, so I think there had been some, what I would now call like a little bit lighter dark romance. It was sort of like on that, I think there's like a line between enemies to lovers and then like a harder dark romance. And we decided to really lean in and take it this next step of what we felt like was a dark romance. And I've said this before to like you've had the lovely Inez Johnson on here.
Yep.
That, you know, like for those of us who love Buffy, I feel like you might be a Buffy fan.
I'm a Buffy fan. Yep.
That like Spike never stops being Spike.
Yeah, he doesn't get a soul or whatever.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Well, when
like,
he finally kind of
gets
like
the chip in his head. Yeah, all that.
None of it really. He still is just who he is. And when you've got your bad guy, they're just gonna always have to be a bad guy. And a lot of people want to make them resolve that real quickly. And holding, and I think that goes for like anything that you're doing. Like if you're writing a hockey romance, if your hockey player has this drive, you don't take that drive away. That's what makes them be who they are. Or if you've got your cowboy who is doing whatever cowboys do, or your So I think you just have to
lean
keep
into
leaning
that.
in.
You keep that with the character tropes, the relationship tropes, the general plot tropes. Don't lean away. Lean in.
Right.
Yes. I like it. You've got a question here for me.
I do. When do you keep writing what you're writing, and when do you branch out with something new? That's a good one.
I have a rule in my head. This is a nerdy ad rule, but it's called the 20% rule. You can tweak a book and you can tweak a series and you can change things. And you can mess with covers and you can do all this stuff. And a lot of people spend a lot of time on that, a lot of energy on that. And it is likely that you can improve your conversion rate by about 20%. So if you were, it was like 10-1, maybe you can get it to like 8-1. Like you can improve it a little bit. And so you could put in hundreds of hours and improve it by a little bit. Or you branch out, you write something new, and it's probable that if you're focused on the right things, you can write something that converts 5-1.
Right.
You're not likely to, even with all the effort in the world, improve conversion by more than 20% on an existing thing. And so you have to do the math in your head. If I improve this by 20%, do I have an author career? Most people, the answer would be no. And that's the point at which you branch out and write something new.
I've found that I've like gone back and like recovered things like say I wrote something a long time ago for whatever reason, and I'm like, oh, this is now popular. I'm going to recover it. And the truth is, it can help.
It can help.
but it's a short term.
Yes.
It's usually a short term, and because at least in the situation I'm talking about, this isn't a genre that I'm leaning back into.
Yeah.
So it may like boost this little backlist for a hot minute, but you have to
Mm-hmm.
think about where you're going also. So
Right.
is it worth where you're going?
Yeah. So little cash infusion, but not long-term success with
No.
that plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want long-term success. That is our goal
Yes.
for all of us here. Yes.
Building and momentum.
So last question of the lightning round to you, Angel. How do you motivate yourself to write when you're not in the mood?
Oh, I just kind of just do. I mean, first of all, I try to give myself some grace
Yeah.
to, if I'm just, I've learned that it is not the end of the world if you take a day off. And it's
Yeah.
just, the whole thing is not going to fall apart. For a long time, I really thought the whole thing was going to fall apart if I wasn't giving it 100% my attention all the time. And it feels like that, I think, when you first start.
Right.
But over time and life circumstances and things like that, I've had to accept that I just can't always do everything all the time. So I think taking a break isn't bad. But I also really just sort of believe in the like, just sit down and do it.
Yeah.
And I do believe that when you listen to creators talk, and it can be musicians, artists, writers, they always say, oh, the first thing I do is I just get up and write. The first thing, I mean, they all say it. Everyone says it. And I think there's a truth to it that if you just sit down and you kind of focus and you say, I'm just going to do a little bit, the little bit usually turns into more.
Yeah.
And it just builds and builds and builds on itself. And if it's just not going to happen, you might as well get up and stop frustrating yourself.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. So don't force it. Try to do a little.
Yeah.
I like it. Awesome. Well, we have gotten to the end of the lightning round, which means we need a question of the week. We've talked about all sorts of interesting things, marketing dark romance, writing craft, when to try something new. Angel, do you have something that you want to hear from our listeners? Some question related to any of that? Even if it's just the subject, we can roll with it.
I would love to know if anyone has worked with a hybrid and found success. And they don't have to say the name, but
sure.
Yeah.
And found success.
Because
Share your
I feel
story.
like I don't know any names. Do you know any names? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I might even expand it to, do you know someone?
Yeah.
Who has worked with a hybrid publisher and found success? Share their story. Awesome. Great question. You can answer the question of the week over at the Sell More Book Show After Party Facebook group or at sellmorebookshow.com. So you should definitely check out Angel Lawson's books. Some dark, wonderful romance. Lots and lots of books. What is it? Over 100?
I've got a lot of books.
You've got a lot of books. So go.
I have officially lost count.
Yeah, that's when you know. That's when you know you're in too deep. You can definitely go check those out. Thank you so much, Angel, for being on the show today. It was great having you.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. And you'll be back next week, in the next week of podcast recording. I want to remind you guys, Groundbreakers and Pathfinders Mastermind group applications are open. You can check out the link over at sellmorebookshow.com. But I'm really excited. We're counting down to number 600, episode 600 here. We'll have that in just a couple of weeks. But for Angel, I'm Bryan. Have a great week of book selling, everybody. And we'll talk to you next week for episode 598. Bye.
Bye.